Hello everyone, and welcome to the Ratchet Motors YouTube channel for today. So I was hoping in this video we'd maybe get to work on the Triumph or the F100 or maybe even the Super Beetle we have parked out front. But unfortunately for all of these projects right now, we're waiting for parts. So with the Triumph, we're waiting for some replacement parts for the motor so we can finish putting it together and hopefully give it a test fire. With the truck, we're still trying to figure out our plan for 2023. And really with the Volkswagen, we have a few parts here or there, but I'm not ready to take it down because it's just been so much fun driving. So with that in mind, we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna take the Bug for one quick spin in case some of you haven't seen it before, and then we'll hop into some 3D prints for today. All right, so it's been a couple weeks maybe, or at least a week or so since we started up last. It's pretty cold out, so we'll see how this goes. Belt's definitely on the list of replacements. Alright, so this here is our 1973 Volkswagen Super Beetle. It originally had, I think, a 1600cc motor, air-cooled motor, and we've now swapped it to a 2008 Subaru water-cooled motor. So it has a 2008 WRX short block and about 2001 naturally aspirated heads. We have a VF48 turbo on it, and we're slowly tuning it with our Mega Squirt MS3 Pro Evo. So if you're not familiar with this, I'll put a link right here or right here, wherever it is. I'll put a link to the kind of the whole playlist of this Bug. So if you haven't had a chance to check it out, you can go ahead and do it. And we're just taking a spin again, just a little normal cruising. There's an apartment complex close to my neighborhood, so I like to use it as a place to do kind of my low speed tuning. And then I'll go to the main yard and do some more fun stuff in a moment. Everything's looking great, which is as expected. I don't know why, I just still get a little nervous taking it out. I think it's the little like 4-inch wide front tires. I mean, you really need to figure out our whole wheel over out all situation, and then also our rear brakes and our rear suspension. We have top line front suspension disc brakes, but just stock everything for the rear right now. Favorite little back road routes to take, because I get to go through all the gears, get a little low speed, high speed stuff, really try to get this Mega Squirt tuned up right. With this upgraded suspension and these small front tires, you really feel every rut in the road. We can definitely use a little more tire once we start trying to push this car a little bit more. Probably one of our biggest limitations right now is tire, and actually possibly clutch. I thought I got us enough clutch, but we may be getting clutch slip as we're getting into higher boosts, I'm starting to realize. Around with this year is possibly putting a Subaru transmission back with the motor. We're currently using the Kennedy engine adapters or engine plate adapter, or it's KEP, Kennedy Engineering Products adapter. So I have the original Type 1 transmission But I have a 5-speed back in my parents. I'm considering putting in this instead to give us a little more gear as well. So we've just been getting super into the 3D printer lately. If you haven't seen our latest video, I'll put a link up here. But we just got a big old spool of some PLA Plus material from Amazon. I'll put the link in the description. And we're gonna go through some calibration test prints here. So I'm using Cura to slice up my different models, and within Cura, it actually has a plugin here that we're going to use. And it allows us to put in a temp tower that already has that G code created. So it's going to allow us to figure out that perfect setting for this PLA Plus for the temperature. So we'll hone in the temperature first, and then we'll go through and we'll actually go through our retraction setting tower as well to try to get those perfect retraction settings. So I'm going to go ahead and put this through on the printer, and we'll do a time lapse just as that print goes through here. Alright, so we went ahead and completed this test print here. It's printing in 5-degree increments. It's a little hard to tell significant differences because we already have some issues with stringing. But I went ahead and I just assumed here, and based on some stuff I read as well, that 210 kind of looks the best. That's that middle section we have right here, that third section from the top. So I use that as my temperature now. And I already went ahead and did a retraction test print. So this is gonna help us figure out the retraction distance we need. And then from there, we'll figure out our retraction speed. And hopefully we can just optimize all these settings and start getting some really, really good prints out. So we'll go ahead and let this print, and then we'll see how the retraction test print here comes out. Alright, so unfortunately our retract distance tower was also a little inconclusive here. The only thing it almost looks like is that 1 millimeter, basically the smallest retraction, actually appeared to do the best. So we're gonna go ahead and put the retraction speed test in for our last setting, and we'll just try to get a ballpark of what we're looking for. Now I wanna try to still print out that collapsible katana that I mentioned in my last video. So we see I got pretty good here. We had some test prints. We see we got some stringing and sticking. And this last one I actually got to slip fit, but we always have to go through calibration when we change our material. This white stuff is called PLA. This blacker material is actually called PLA Plus, so it's slightly different properties. So that's why we're going through all this calibration. We'll see how this retract speed test comes out, and hopefully we get some pretty good settings for this material. So unfortunately here, we're still getting some inconclusive results with all of our different test prints. So I'm actually going to just use my gut here, and we're going to try to do a couple of these these concentric rings with some ideas of setting I think I have here, because it's getting a little tricky. I think the problem is we just have too many variables with these different types of test prints. So I'm going to put in my best idea, and we'll give it a shot here for those concentric rings. All right, we were having a lot of trouble with the Cura slicer. It almost looked like it wasn't picking up our settings as we changed them. We kept getting our stringing issues here. And then I switched over to the Creality slicer, and immediately we got a better print here. So these are all actually more or less separated. We're just getting a little bit on the bottom of what we call elephant footing. So I'm going to do a couple more tweaks here, and we should actually be good to go with this material. This actually came out a lot better than any of the other prints I've tried up to this point here. So we're going to go ahead and keep most of these settings, and just to try to fine tune out that little bit of sticking together we get on that first layer. All right, so it took a lot of trial and error here, but we finally got this to work out. The print came out okay, and the parts are actually separating. Now they're still a little tight, but I think that's just how it's going to be. It's still pretty cool. We got them all to separate, no stringing, no webbing, nothing like that. So now I think we're ready to give that Katana a test print. All right, so we're back at it again today. We have done now, let's see if I can, still trying out this gimbal here. We have done now about 12 different test prints. Let's see here if I can. And basically, long story short, we figured out what settings were off here. There's actually a setting in here to fill in voids that we had going. And that's why when we were doing our slicing in our Creality versus our slicing in Cura, we were getting double the time in Creality. So we figured out all those settings. We've got all our test prints in here nice. We can see we get all of our concentric rings are easily sliding apart here. So we're gonna go ahead and send it. I'm gonna put my print in the machine. It's gonna take about 7 hours to print out this collapsible katana, all concentric. We should be able to pop it off and immediately use it as a lightsaber. It should be pretty fun. Again, we're just trying to stay busy here as we wait for our car parts to show up. All right, so we'll give it a shot here. I'll try to give a little bit of time lapse. It's gonna take 7 hours, so I'm not going to time lapse the whole thing, but we'll get some little clips here and there of everything going on. All right, so the print just finished up here. We'll turn off our time-lapsing camera. Our print just finished up here. It took a total of 6 hours and 15 minutes, so a lot shorter time than what it actually said in our slicer software. And it actually looks really good here. Even that little logo on the top from the original designer. See here if we can get down on that. Everything's looking really good. So I'm going to put the camera down and we'll see if we can get this off pretty easily. Okay, came off pretty easy. So we're giving it a shot. It looks like it's still just a little stuck on the inside, which makes me a little sad here, but came apart pretty easy so far. Might just need a little more post-processing to get everything to separate here. Well, we're getting there. So it took a little bit of work, but we got everything all loosened up. It's actually working out. Check it out. So not too bad. We'll show a little B-roll so we can really get up in here close, but I'm really happy with all the settings. It did have a little bit of sticking, so there's probably a little bit of fine tuning you could do, but in the end, it just came down to really kind of jiggling around a little bit and separating between the layers. So not too bad. Pretty happy with that. Alright, so that's everything we have for today's video. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. Again, let me know if you guys have any ideas for some cool prints we could do. I'm thinking about maybe printing a holder for a tablet for the bug, so maybe we could use that as a digital dash. So give me some ideas if you guys have any thoughts or any projects of prints you've done in the past. And hopefully in the next video we'll actually be able to put that Triumph back together. That's really the main thing we're waiting on parts for right now. We're waiting for a shim. Once we get that shim, we can put the Triumph completely back together. We can hopefully get it fired up and maybe even take it for a spin sooner than later. Alright, so if you liked everything you saw, hit a like button below. Be sure to subscribe for more content. Hope to see you again soon.